Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we share updates on the winter storm coming to North Carolina tomorrow. I'm joined by the Director of Emergency Management, Will Ray, Secretary of Transportation, Daniel Johnson, Secretary of Public Safety, Jeff Smythe, Major General Todd Hunt of the North Carolina National Guard, and the Commander of the State Highway Patrol, Colonel Freddie Johnson. Jackie Matevier and Murtado Bustillo are our Spanish language interpreters, and our American Sign Language interpreters are Stephen Holland and Karen Magoon. The latest weather forecasts lead us to expect impacts to the majority of the state starting tomorrow and lasting into next week. Between snow, sleet, ice, freezing rain, and bitterly cold temperatures, this storm is expected to cause major disruptions to your daily life, possibly for days. Our message to North Carolina is simple. This is a serious storm. We are taking it seriously, and so should you. On Wednesday, I declared a state of emergency across North Carolina to mobilize resources in advance of the storm. We've activated the State Emergency Response Team, a cross-agency group that includes the Department of Transportation, the Department of Public Safety, the North Carolina National Guard, the State Highway Patrol, and our state's utilities. The NCDOT has already put down 2.8 million gallons of brine to pre-treat the roads and is ready to salt the roads and plow them once the storm begins. The State Emergency Response Team has shipped pallets of meals and drinking water around the state in preparation. Some localities are starting to open warming centers, so check your local government emergency management's website to see what options are available near you. And utilities like Duke Energy have brought in more than 18,000 workers from around the country to help restore power where necessary. At this time, because of expected ice accumulation and cold temperatures, our greatest concerns remain unsafe travel and power outages that could last for days. So we recommend that you take the following actions to navigate this winter weather event. First, stay informed. Make sure you're following your local media, the National Weather Service, and your local emergency management agency for the latest updates and recommendations. Second, get disaster supplies ready now in case you lose power and can't leave home for a few days. You may need water, non-perishable food, medication, and other supplies for 3 to 5 days for each person and pet in your household. You may also need a flashlight and fresh batteries, a battery-operated radio, a way to keep your phone charged, and blankets and winter clothing. Visit readync.gov for more detailed information about how to prepare for a storm. Third, make a plan. Make a plan for if the power goes out, how you'll safely keep warm, what you'll eat, and who you will call in case you need help. Be ready to reach out to family or authorities for help if you're without power for an extended period of time. The effects of this storm could last for days. Fourth, stay off the roads starting tomorrow. For your own safety and that of others, please do not drive unless it is necessary. And that request will likely extend beyond the weekend. Next week is going to be cold. We expect the temperature to fall below freezing every night for the next 7 days. That means whatever ice or snow that turns to slush during the day will freeze again overnight. Black ice will remain a risk in many places into next week. So plan for the possibility that you'll be stuck at home for a few days. Fifth and finally, as you're getting ready yourself, don't forget to check on your loved ones, neighbors, and anyone you know who might be vulnerable, including the elderly. Over the past year, I've been inspired time and again by the many North Carolinians I've seen lending a helping hand to their neighbors in need. So please look out for your family and yourself and for your neighbors too. North Carolina, that's how we're going to get through this storm together. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Director Ray and then Secretary Johnson. Director Ray.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. Winter storm warnings and ice warnings are now in effect through midday Monday for the mountains and the Piedmont. A winter storm watch remains in effect farther east, and as accumulation types and amounts become clearer, the watch will transition to warnings or advisories. Significant wintry precipitation is forecast over the weekend, with major impacts lingering into early next week as dangerously cold temperatures are forecast. Ice accumulation of a quarter inch or more is likely across much of North Carolina Saturday through Monday morning. Areas across the southern mountains, higher elevations into the Blue Ridge Escarpment, and into much of central North Carolina are forecast to see the most impactful ice accumulations, and in some cases, reaching or exceeding 1 inch. As a reminder, ice accumulations of around a ½ inch of ice or more can cause an increase in downed trees or impact power lines and lead to an increase in power outages, as well as hazardous travel conditions. Based on this morning's forecast update, hazardous travel conditions are expected to begin by midday Saturday and will worsen through Sunday and may remain for several days due to those lingering low temperatures. We need all North Carolinians to remain focused on preparing for the potential impacts with a plan and supplies to support you and your family for the next several days. Unnecessary travel not only puts you at risk, but also the public safety personnel, the power crews, and the DOT workers who are working to respond to emergencies, to restore power, and to clear roadways. The State Emergency Response Team, including all our interagency partners, our private sector and nonprofit and volunteer agencies, has been activated here at the State Emergency Operations Center, as well as our regional coordination centers in Kinston, Burlington, and Hickory. We continue to support commodity distribution from our activated warehouses. As of this morning, the State Emergency Response Team has shipped approximately 65 pallets of meals ready to eat, or MREs, and drinking water to assist communities with shelter operations if needed. This is in addition to over 460 cots and blanket shipments to supplement local supply, as well as commodities that have been shipped into local communities over the past several months to assist in building local capacity. Additional commodities are shipping out from our warehouses today into tomorrow. 11 county states of emergency have been declared, and 2 county emergency operations centers are activated, with many others monitoring plans to activate this weekend. Communities across the state are opening shelter locations and warming stations. For the most up-to-date information on the resources available in your community, please visit your local government and local emergency management agency's website and social media accounts. Elements of the North Carolina National Guard are active today and pre-positioning across the state to quickly assist the needs of our communities. 95 force packages will be assisting with clearing roadways from downed trees, helping disabled motorists, supplementing our first responders, and assisting with commodity distribution. These force packages include approximately 430 National Guardsmen and women and 170 vehicles, and they will be on station across the state later today. We remain in close coordination with our energy sector partners who are present here at the State EOC and will be closely monitoring power outage information and assisting any needs to quickly restore power in communities that do see outages. The North Carolina Forest Service has placed six task forces on standby to assist local first responders or state agencies with clearing roadways as soon as it's safe to do so. Each task force is comprised of saw crews, heavy equipment, and a mechanic. Additional chainsaw crews are activated, and all 100 counties are staffed with their forestry personnel. Communications personnel and equipment have been pre-deployed to assist with any degradation of 911 systems, radio systems, and phone networks. 44 caches of radios have been deployed to assist with local response efforts, and our partners at the North Carolina Highway Patrol have conducted checks of the systems that support the state's Viper radio system, used by our first responders statewide. As a reminder, 911 should only be used for emergencies. For general information, please call 211 or follow your local government and emergency management websites and social media accounts. We will continue to work with the entire State Emergency Response Team, local and state governments, the private sector, and our nonprofit and volunteer agencies as the forecast continues to evolve to ensure we can support our 11 million North Carolinians. As we go into the weekend, it is imperative that, again, all North Carolinians are prepared for preparedness information and checklists. Please visit readync.gov. Finally, please check on your friends, your family members, and neighbors, or those in your community who may need additional support this weekend. We're going to see significant winter storm impacts, and we are stronger and more resilient together. Thank you, Governor. I'll now turn it over to Secretary Johnson from DOT.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Director Ray. Safety is our top priority at NCDOT, and it remains our key message today. With the likelihood of icy weather creating treacherous travel conditions in the days ahead, we urge people to please stay put if you don't need to be out on the roads. Staying off the roads during and after the storm allows DOT crews, law enforcement, utility crews, and other emergency responders to do their work. We're expecting a storm that is largely going to be ice-related, which makes traveling on the roads that much more challenging. Even if you have a large truck or SUV, driving on icy roads can be nearly impossible. We'll also have implemented immediate towing measures with the cooperation of the State Highway Patrol to help remove any vehicles that have been disabled, to help both facilitate clearing of the roads and also to eliminate danger for those traveling on those roads. People may notice messages that we placed on digital highway signs across the state. Crews will focus on these efforts on highways and primary routes. We will continue the effort until NCDOT and the Highway Patrol determine that it is safe to lift these measures. We're also continuing to monitor forecasts closely with the help of our partners at the National Weather Service. Forecasts help us make informed decisions and ensure we're placing resources where they're needed most. That's especially important when a storm has statewide impacts like this one. Our crews are in the process of wrapping up pre-storm preparations. As the governor noted, the department has applied about 2.8 million gallons of brine on the roads and state system. Nearly all 2,100 DOT employees who are trained to respond to such storms have contributed to this effort. They're now transitioning their focus and equipment to be ready to clear the roads as the storm moves in. This includes removing trees and limbs that may fall. Salt on hand is at 160,000 tons, and we continue to secure additional salt and distribute it across the state. So we are in good shape from a supply standpoint. We're taking all precautions possible because we aren't going to take a chance with your safety. I encourage everyone to stay informed, make safe decisions about travel, and ensure you have all the supplies you need in case this ends up being a long-term event. People can visit drivenc.gov to view the latest road conditions and other storm-related information. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to the governor for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Director Ray. If any of y'all have questions, feel free to go to the microphones on either side of the room. Yes.
Hi, Caroline Yaffa with WRAL News. So since we're expecting icy roadways, what should essential workers, state employees do to make sure that they're safe and if the roadways are dangerous, and if they feel that it's not safe to travel, what are the impacts that could mean for the community? Yeah.
One area that we have a special concern is whenever you have vulnerable people together, whether that's at a retirement center or at a hospital, and each of those facilities have their own emergency plans. And part of that is having the preparation that folks may have to spend the night at their place of work so that they don't have to travel on the roads back and forth and put themselves at risk or find themselves unable to get back to work where they are desperately needed by the patients or residents of that community. In terms of essential workers for the state, each department, each agency has its own emergency plan and its own way to notify folks of when they should come to work and if they should come to work. Obviously, we don't want anyone traveling who absolutely does not need to, and if they can't get there safely, they should not be on the road.
Hi, this is Laura Hackett with Blue Ridge Public Radio. I'm wondering if the state has been in touch with cell service providers and if damage to cell towers and outages are anticipated.
We have been here at the Emergency Management Center. We have our private sector partners, whether they're the utilities or they're the cell phone companies, the communications networks. And so we're in regular contact with them, and I'll ask Director Ray to answer to your specific question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. As the governor said, I think one of the things we continue to reinforce here is what we do is not a public sector function only. And so our commercial telecom partners are here as a part of what we do. They are here in the EOC. We are closely monitoring with them what impacts to their networks they are seeing and how then we need to pivot to adjust resources, whether it's an infrastructure issue, whether it's a technology issue, or some other issue kind of impacting their provision of service. So they are very much a part of what we do. They are here with us and are part of our state emergency response team. And as we move through this event, that's one of the areas that we're going to continue to remain significantly focused on is our network statewide to make sure that folks are able to receive any type of emergency alerts or information, certainly from local emergency services.
Just to follow up real quick, so through the monitoring that has already happened, any indication that cell outages will occur?
Well, we're always concerned. When you have an ice event like this, it can topple towers. It can have trees fall into towers. So there will also be an incredible demand on the system. Folks are going to be at home. They're going to want information. So we expect that people are really going to be maximally utilizing the networks, which will cause their own issues. That's one reason why we encourage folks to get battery-operated radios so that you can stay informed even if you lose communications through modern means.
Michael Perchik, ABC 11. To that point, from a staffing perspective at EOC or local county storm operations centers, what capabilities exist for them to work remotely in the event they're not physically able to get there in person?
Yeah, well, as I said, each agency of government, whether it's state agency or county agency, has their own emergency plan. So they know exactly what to do, who they've identified before the storm hits, who are emergency personnel. They've identified whether that person can perform his or her work remotely or must come into the office. Obviously, we need law enforcement, we need fire, we need EMS to be in their places of work so that when they need to respond, they can. This is one thing, unfortunately, because North Carolina has experienced so many storms of all types, whether they're winter storms like this or hurricanes, the governmental entities, they're well prepared.
As a follow-up, can you speak to the lessons learned from some of those prior storms and how you're able to kind of troubleshoot some of the issues you may have run into in the past to try and avoid them moving forward?
Yeah, I'll have Director Ray speak to the redundancies, but clearly we became too dependent on a single means of communication, which is our cell phone. And so we have worked hard to ensure that we have redundant means of communicating, certainly among emergency personnel. And I will ask Director Ray to come forward and speak more.
Thank you, sir. I think specific to the communications point that the governor was making, and I think to expand on what we talked about yesterday, I think most of the agencies you see up here on the stage, most of the agencies represented in the state EOC or our regional centers and certainly locally have taken lessons learned most recently from Helene or some of the more recent events and invested in some of the redundant satellite-based technologies for redundant communication. We have a variety of redundant communications platforms, whether it's radio caches, mobile towers, mobile data systems that are able to be deployed from a variety of agencies out across the state. Some of the pre-planning, for example, that our 911 community in the state has really been focused on over the last couple of years is a failover system so that if a local 911 center in a jurisdiction is impacted, there is a failover plan for an unimpacted area to be able to continue to receive 911 calls. And again, that's the great work that community has done in reaction to many of our events. I think broadly, we always want to take a retrospective look at what we do and how we do it and how we can get better. We've done that for every event, low-level ones or major ones like we've experienced in the last couple of years, and it's certainly one that we will continue to do as we all move through this event.
And just to add, I'll ask Colonel Johnson to come forward. He just briefed me on an investment that the Highway Patrol has done in the Viper network to help ensure its continued functionality even when a tower or two gets knocked out. And the radios, you can talk about radios.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. To that question, so the patrol maintains the state communication system across the state. And one of the investments that I was explaining to the governor is that they have the ability to adjust. So if a tower is impacted by a storm, a tower that's in an area that's not impacted can readjust its microwave system and overlap that area. So the stuff continues to work and it can communicate. All our emergency services partners that operate on that system. Then another thing we have, so if you have a local agency has their communication system that's not totally on the Viper state system, we have, Director Ray mentioned it, caches of radios. What that is handheld radios that operate on this state communication system. We have about a little over 3,000 of those. We can deploy those things into those communities and hand them to these agencies so they can operate. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions in the room? If not, we'll go to those who are calling in. If you could please identify yourself and where you're calling from.
Hi, this is Claudia Rivera Coto with Enlace Latino NC. Regarding shelters, what assurance are there in place to ensure Latino communities can access them without being questioned about immigration status or required to show state IDs or even having the information shared with ICE?
Yeah. The shelters are operated locally, and we are in contact with our county management agencies, emergency management agencies. 11 counties have so far declared a state of emergency. Others we expect will do so today. Whether or not a local emergency has been declared, many counties are preparing either shelters or warming stations, and they are welcoming all people to come in. Director, anything to add? Thank you. Any other questions?
As a follow-up to that, there are no written policies that explicitly prevent asking this type of information from the residents?
Can't speak to what the county policies are. Director Ray.
I think, as the governor said, I think our focus here at a state level and the focus of the public safety communities at a local level for an event like this is how do we provide necessary support and services to all North Carolinians. And so they are going to implement those warming stations based on their local operations. And again, their focus is how do we get people safe? So I would reinforce what the governor said is that locally they are making preparations to deal with all people in their communities.
We don't want anyone who is in need of shelter at risk of freezing to death to not seek that help.
We're not seeing any additional questions online.
Thank you all for being here.